on what I was reading or watching at the time, I used to daydream all the time that I was living in antebellum days or Revolutionary War time or the Middle Ages, or really wherever I imagined that the dresses were prettiest. But it always seemed to my imagination like such a peaceful time. You know, you watch Gone with the Wind and the balls and stuff. This is before the Civil War starts. But you've got the balls and everything is beautiful and all of that. That's how it's portrayed. Just a simple, beautiful time. And I remember so many times wishing that that was my life, that it was simple and beautiful like that. And honestly, looking back, when I was younger, my life was pretty simple and beautiful. But I find now that instead of living a peaceful, beautiful life a lot of times, I find myself really frustrated, and I've allowed a lot of chaos to come into my life and into my family. And what I'm hearing in a lot of questions that I'm being asked lately and in conversations that I've had at Teach Them Diligently is that I'm not the only one who has allowed our families to get really chaotic. And I just want you to repeat after me something that I have to remind myself of all the time, and that is, nope, I can't do everything. Go ahead, say it. Nope, I can't do everything. You know, I wonder why a lot of times that we allow ourselves to get in that point or get to that point of just utter frustration, and why we do try to do everything, why we want to be superwoman, we want to look like we've got it all in control. And so this week, we're gonna look at 4 things that I kind of thought of maybe leading us astray, leading us down a path where we are pretending like we can do everything. First of all, I think sometimes we just get in over our heads. You know, I have big ideas. I have big dreams. I like to do things. And a lot of times in my own family, my big ideas are just way bigger than my days. You know, I want to be creative. I want to do all of these super cool things with my children. But here's the thing. We can't do all the super cool things with our children. And I think that that's where we allow ourselves to get really frustrated. We're looking at Pinterest, or we're reading these blogs, or we're gathering all of these amazing ideas, and they are all amazing ideas. But they're shared by people who were doing one of them, not trying to do all at once. So I think that one of the reasons why we get in over our head is we just allow our creativity to run unbridled. And we allow that to take control, to where if we're not getting in all of those cool things in a week or in a month or even in our year, we're just frustrated and kind of despondent. I have often felt like I was just failing because I wasn't getting all this extra stuff in. And that's just not a good benchmark. That's not anything that's a good way to judge whether you're doing a good job as a homeschool mom or not. So I think that our creativity sometimes can get us in trouble because we take on and we try to fit in way too many things. And that gets us to that point of frustration because we feel like we're not accomplishing things when it's really, we're just not accomplishing everything. Another thing where we get ourselves in over our heads is we as a group of homeschool moms tend to like to serve. We like to be involved in things. We want to make people happy. We like to say yes. And a lot of times we say yes to things that we probably shouldn't. One thing that I learned a pretty good long time ago is that there are a lot of things that I would like to do. There are a very few things that only I can do. And I have to focus first and foremost on the very few things that only I can do. Only I can be mom to Camden, Peyton, Lizzie, Gray, and Lila. Only I can be wife to David, manage our home, teach my children. That's only me. Only I can do this ministry that God has given us through Teach Them Diligently. God gave that to our family. There are a lot of other things like at co-op and at church and stuff like that, some of which I'm able to do because they're relatively small, but there's a lot of things that I would love to do, but it's not for this season. It's not for while I'm teaching 3 in high school and 1 in middle school. It's not while I'm trying to minister to so many ladies and families across the country. That may be for another time, but right now I have to say no to things, or I will get in over my head and I will be really frustrated and really losing my mind, and my family will will take the brunt of it, honestly, because we all know if mama's not happy, nobody's happy, and mama can't be happy if things are that chaotic. So I think that one of the ways that we have to remind ourselves that we can't do everything is by not getting in over our heads. Another thing that I wanted to kind of draw attention to is I think sometimes we just don't cut stuff out to accommodate what our life looks like now. Now, by that I mean, when you are homeschooling your children, that is adding a whole full-time job that is new into the mix of things. And you may have been doing it for a long time, but I wonder if you've ever addressed this issue, because it took me a very long time to address it. And that is, because I am now full-time teaching 4 different levels of school, I don't have the same amount of free time to do a bunch of other things. And yet I was approaching my life as if I should be able to do all of that stuff as well. But you can't. I can't. And God tells us that whatever we do, we should do it heartily as unto the Lord. And so I think a lot of us need to learn what we need to cut out. What things, again, like I said just a second ago, are maybe for another stage of our life or for another time, but they're not for right now, not for the stage that we're in. Right now, God has called us to a very specific task of homeschooling and discipling our children, shepherding their hearts, nurturing them, running and managing our home in a way that points them to Jesus. And we need to keep that first and foremost in our minds. And that may mean that even some of the fun stuff that we used to do, it's a rare day that I get to go out with a bunch of other moms. It would be fun, but it's just not something that I am able to do right now. But there will come a time when I will be able to again. I already have more freedom than I did just a few years ago to go out. If someone wants to talk, or if there's just, I haven't seen you for a long time, we try to go grab lunch. So that's already starting to come back in. But I went for a while where it wasn't possible for me to hang out with people a lot outside of my home. It could be just the manner in which you keep your home. You may actually have to downgrade some of your expectations there. You may not have a spring cleaned home all the time. Now, that is not to say that you should live in a pigsty, of course. Don't want you to go to the other extreme. But you do need to keep your expectations realistic so that you recognize that in this season, I can't do everything, or at least I can't do it the same way that I used to. The third thing that really bites me a lot is I don't delegate. I have a very, very hard time passing on jobs to other people that other people can do. And in talking to people, I found that I'm probably not the only one that struggles with this. And I bring a lot of stuff on myself because I just hold it so tightly. David gets on me all the time for not even letting the kids. I've taught them how to do all this stuff, and I'll swoop in and do it for them or behind them or something like that, rather than being willing to accept a child's job. And there's a lot that a child can learn by seeing that mama will accept their job. I'll come in and coach, and I can help them refine it, but my natural inclination a lot of times, sadly, is to go in and just take it. I can do this quicker. I can do this better. And so before long, I've taken back everything, and I'm right back to the trying to do all the stuff that I used to do before, which is not what, it's not helping. It's not helping them grow, and it's not helping me do the things that only I can do. So I encourage you to delegate. That may be at church. If you are serving in several roles at church, or even one role at church, maybe you need to find somebody that can shoulder some of that burden with you. Maybe there's somebody that can grow alongside of you just by you taking them under your wing and delegating some things to them. That may be exactly what that other lady, that other mom needs. So I encourage you to look for ways to delegate. And then the final thing that the Lord really convicted me about as I was thinking about this fact that we try to do everything and we get so discouraged when we can't. And that is that I fear a lot of times that we're believing a lie. I think that we put a lot of stuff in our lives because we believe the lie that the world tries to sell us, that we are not enough for our children. And so we are running to all of these extra things because they're going to be bored, they're going to resent us, they're going to resent and kind of get bad relationships with their siblings. And that's just not true. Remember, God is the one who called you to do this. God is the one that will equip you to do this. And God has promised that what he starts, he is going to perfect in us. He's going to perfect that which concerneth us. And he also promises that he'll never leave us nor forsake us. So I encourage you not to put a bunch of extra stuff into your life where you're running and you're frazzled. And another way that you can't do everything is because you're never in one place long enough to do everything. Don't buy into the world's lie that you are not enough for your children. God created family with mama and daddy and children, and that's the way we are to teach diligently. That is the way we are to pass down our faith. That is the way deep discipleship happens. That is the way we are preparing our children for this next step in their life. And so take heart in that. Take heart in the fact that you're not alone in feeling overwhelmed and frazzled. I want you to remember this week, and really I encourage you to meditate on the fact that God tells us that his yoke is easy and his burden is light. And I want you to think about what you've taken on yourself or not been willing to take off of yourself that is making you burdened and frustrated and discouraged. And really give that back to God. Lay that down and see if he will take that off of you. Search God's word for what you really should be doing. And then just make it your commitment that you are going to seek his way for your family and not continue to pile on stuff that is not yours to carry. Let it go, my friend. Let it go, and remember, you cannot do everything because you're not called to do everything. But by God's grace, you can do exactly what you are called to do, for he will go with you. Have a great week.